All right, so today we're going deep on a pretty fascinating question. What makes God happy?
It's a question that has intrigued people for centuries, hasn't it?
Oh, yeah, for sure. And we've gone through tons of spiritual traditions and sacred texts to kind of try and figure out the answer.
And it turns out there are a lot of different perspectives on this, but we've distilled it down to 8 core paths that seem to resonate across many traditions.
8 distinct ways to kind of make God happy. And I know some people might hear that and think, well, that sounds a little transactional, doesn't it?
It can sound that way, yeah, like we're trying to earn brownie points or something.
Right. But that's not really what this deep dive is about.
No, it's not about appeasing some kind of cosmic scorekeeper.
Exactly. It's much more about exploring the actions that help us cultivate a deeper, more meaningful connection with the divine.
It's about understanding what brings us closer to that source of love, wisdom, and guidance that many people call God.
Okay, so let's jump into those 8 paths. The first one is all about love and worship. The source we looked at specifically mentions prayer, praise, and thanksgiving as key practices. What's the deeper significance of these actions?
Well, think of it like any deep, loving relationship. You express your affection, you appreciate the other person's qualities, you spend time together.
Right.
Prayer, praise, and thanksgiving are kind of like the spiritual equivalents of those actions.
They nurture a sense of connection.
Exactly. They nurture a sense of closeness and connection with the divine. It's about actively nurturing that relationship, not just going through the motions.
Okay, the next path, though, that's the one that I think a lot of people might have some questions about. Obeying God's commandments. Because honestly, it can sound a bit rigid, right?
It definitely can, especially in our modern world where we value autonomy and freedom of choice.
So how do different spiritual traditions interpret this concept of obedience?
Well, it's less about blind obedience and more about understanding the wisdom embedded within these commandments. Many see them as guidelines for living a virtuous life, a life that aligns with a divine blueprint, you could say, for happiness and fulfillment.
So it's not about being punished if you don't follow the rules perfectly.
No, not at all.
Okay, what about gratitude? That one seems pretty straightforward, right? Just be thankful for what you have.
Yes, but there's actually a lot more to it than that. Gratitude is a powerful force that can transform our entire perspective. It shifts our focus from what we lack to what we have, fostering a sense of contentment and joy.
I feel like we hear about gratitude a lot these days, not just in spiritual context, but in psychology and self-help too.
Exactly. And there's a good reason for that. Studies have shown that practicing gratitude can reduce stress, improve sleep, and boost overall well-being. So whether you approach it from a spiritual angle or a psychological one, the benefits are undeniable.
All right, next up we have one that really got me thinking. Forgiving others. How does forgiving someone who's wronged us connect to making God happy?
That's a great question. Many spiritual traditions believe that holding on to anger and resentment creates a kind of spiritual blockage. It hinders our connection with the divine.
It's like we're holding ourselves captive.
In a way, yes. Forgiveness, on the other hand, is an act of liberation. It frees us from the weight of negativity and opens our hearts to compassion and love. It's not about condoning the actions of others, but about choosing to release the bitterness that poisons our own spirit.
It's about making space for something better.
Mm.
And that brings us to caring for the needy and vulnerable.
Yes, and this path is all about putting our love and compassion into action. The source we looked at actually quotes Proverbs 19:17, which says, "Whoever is kind to the poor lends to the Lord."
Wow. It's pretty powerful.
It suggests that our actions towards others, especially those in need, are a direct reflection of our relationship with the divine.
Okay, so we've covered love, obedience, gratitude, forgiveness, compassion. What about living with integrity and honesty?
Ah, yes, living with integrity. That means aligning our actions with our values, being truthful, trustworthy, living in a way that reflects our highest ideals.
And this is seen as a way to honor God.
Yes, in many traditions, it's seen as a way to honor the divine spark within ourselves and others.
So it's about recognizing that inherent dignity in all beings.
Absolutely.
What about humility? That's not a word we hear a lot these days.
No, it's not. But in many spiritual traditions, humility is seen as a cornerstone of spiritual growth. It's not about putting yourself down or thinking you're unworthy.
Mm.
It's about recognizing your place in the grand scheme of things, acknowledging that we don't have all the answers, that we're constantly learning and growing.
It's about being open to something greater than ourselves.
Exactly. It's that openness to guidance that's essential for spiritual development.
And finally, we have sharing God's love and message with others. So we're talking about preaching here, trying to convert people.
Not necessarily. It's less about proselytizing and more about embodying the principles we've been discussing. It's about letting our actions inspire others, being a beacon of love, compassion, and integrity in the world.
It's about walking the walk, not just talking the talk.
Precisely. It's about reflecting that divine light outwards, illuminating the path for others to find their own connection.
Wow, what a deep dive this has been. So much to think about.
It really is.
And, you know, listener, as we wrap up here, I think it's important to emphasize that this isn't about earning points or achieving some kind of spiritual perfection.
No, not at all.
It's about the journey, right?
Absolutely. These 8 paths are invitations to deepen your relationship with the divine, however you conceive of that.
And that relationship is going to look different for everyone. So, listener, which of these paths resonates most with you?
Yeah.
How might practicing gratitude or forgiveness or humility change your perspective?
And what does that journey of spiritual growth and maturity look like for you, regardless of your specific beliefs?
Remember, the source material we looked at emphasizes that this is a journey, not a destination.
And a deep dive like this is just the beginning. It's about sparking curiosity, inviting reflection, and empowering you to continue exploring.
And that's what we hope this deep dive has done for you today.
Giving you something to ponder as you continue on your own spiritual journey.
Thanks for joining us.
Until next time.